Welcome back to the Bleeding Hearts Club, where we alchemize pain into something beautiful together. I'm your co-host, Shroot. I'm an astrologer who uses astrology as a self-reflective tool for healing and growth. And this is my co-host.
Hi, y'all. My name is Stevie. I am a tarot reader, Reiki practitioner, death worker, mental health professional. Yeah, all of the above and then some. Hi, Shroot. It's nice to see you.
I know it's been 84 years. We apologize for the late upload. We did warn you in our defense this would happen, and it did happen. The time difference between me and Stevie right now is 12 hours and 30 minutes because I'm in India. I am in the motherland. I am on the matriarchal trip to see the grandmothers, my mom, my family, and before I came to India, I met up with my family in Switzerland and we spent a week in the mountains, which was wonderful and beautiful and lovely. And I think the most notable thing that I wasn't prepared for, obviously, I was prepared for some mountains and unfortunately, all my nails ripping off painfully one by one because of how dry it is in Switzerland. What I wasn't expecting was that they put bells on the cows and they really let them roam free in the countryside. And we had a place that we stayed in the countryside. I have to send you the video, Stevie. It's so cute. I took so many. They were just roaming around like right outside our hotel and it was so it's like it was peaceful and then at some point I was like, okay, we get it. Look, these poor cows, like, are they okay? Like, they have this bell on them 24/7. Like, I'm so sorry to these cows, but they were delightful. They were so beautiful and wonderful. And so that was like an unexpected moment for me in Switzerland. I don't know why I didn't expect that. I've seen the photos of the cows, but like to actually like experience it was a different like whole thing altogether. So that was nice. And then yeah, I've been spending the last month here in India. I'm visiting my grandma's, and it has been really wonderful. I think the Charlie XCX Apple song is really applying. And I think that it has been a real delight to understand more about who I am, where I come from, and why I am the way I am. And it's been so beautiful to really get to know my grandmother because I feel like um, my grandfathers have both passed away. It's been about 8 years, 7, 8 years, like 7 years actually. And whenever I knew my grandmother's growing up, when I would come to India every once in a while, it was like the caregiving role was still so kind of strong that it was hard to get to know my grandmothers as people. And so this time, I think that's been my favorite part is that I'm really getting to meet my grandma for the first time, I feel like. And it's just wonderful. So yeah. What's up, baby Stevie? It's been a month. How have you been?
I'm just like really sitting with that. And really happy that you're getting to experience really meeting your grandmothers as people aside from their caregiving role. Oy, oy, oy. I've been doing okay. I started a couple of classes this season. I don't know. But I've been taking like a curanderics toolkit class. I know like early on in our podcast, I referenced this book called the Curanderics Toolkit by Atava Garcia Swizeki or Swizeki Garcia. I forget which combo it is. But she has been offering a practice, like a study circle slash practice class. So it's 7 weeks. I've been in community with like other folks who are like interested in Kuranderismo and just like plant medicine in general. And it's been a really tender, thoughtful, and exciting space to be in. So that's been very nourishing and fun. Um, and I also recently started a course on the artist way. I don't know if y'all have heard of the artist way before. I still don't fully know how to describe it to you other than like I know Dochi did it. And it's a course through this um, business nonprofit called Introspective Spaces, and it's specifically for like healthcare workers and mental health professionals. So they don't require you to like read the full book because they also know that like you're busy. You got things to do. in work, outside of work. So they offer like cliff notes, summaries of each chapter, some prompts to sit with. And it's been a lot of fun. I've been doing, other than this past weekend, which I stopped my momentum, but I've been doing 3 pages of like morning pages where I get up, and before I reach for my phone and look at my text messages, all the text messages from Shroot and Andrew, um, and open up social media, I have been writing just 3 pages of whatever stream of consciousness comes out. And it has been really nice to start the day that way, because I notice that if I don't start the day that way and I just reach for my phone and open up social media, it never like enhances my experience. It actually kind of makes it worse. Um, so it's been really cool doing that. And as part of my artist way situation, I've been wanting to tap into more like mindfulness, like creativity, like creating things, or just, being guided by whatever I feel beckoned to do. And over the past week, I felt really beckoned to start doing these color walks. If you follow me on TikTok, I have started posting a few. I think I just posted my fifth one. Um, and I just go on a walk in my neighborhood or wherever the hell I am. And I decide to focus on one color. And I started off with pink, and I just notice where I'm finding pink around me. And it could be like trash that's pink. It could be someone's like home decor that's pink, or a sign that's pink. And sometimes I'll take like a little video of them. Um, and then I just like put it all together with some calming music. And I have been posting like a little nervous system reset with these color walks, and it feels so fun. And I don't know, it's really upping my whimsical meter lately too. So that feels good. But yeah, I'm feeling a lot more centered and making a lot more space for myself, and feeling really excited to, I don't know, tap more into my creativity. But that's me. That's my update.
It makes me so happy to see your color walks. That was like such a thrill for me. And also because it's been so long since I've been in California. And I feel like so many of the things that you kind of capture are just so Californian, if that makes sense. Like, and so it's been making me really like, I don't know, happy. Like I don't miss California in that way, but it feels like a little like wave from home kind of thing. So it's been really co-regulating for me to even just see your color box. It's taken everything in me to not just be commenting like I'm so proud of you, Stevie. I'm so excited, Stevie. I love this, Stevie. And so I should stop resisting and just do that on all your posts. So I will be doing that after this call. But I also wanted to mention when you were talking about scrolling on the phone versus morning pages, I did see an herbalist talk about how, especially for people with ADHD, when you scroll on the phone first thing in the morning, you are almost like using up your dopamine for the day. And so it makes it harder to like make decisions later on in the day and like get through the day. And like it can make it a little bit more irritable or short-tempered or even hard to focus later in the day. And so she was like, I really encourage, I know it's hard. She was like, I encourage to kind of avoid the phone first thing in the morning and to, you know, do stuff, I guess, that centers you, which is exactly what you're doing, which is incredible. And I really commend you for that because I can't relate. I know this information. Do I follow this information? No, not even a little bit. I love to scroll my phone first thing in the morning. And uh, I feel like a lot of people are somewhat new to the horrors of doom scrolling. I am not new to this. I am so true to this. And I find a little bit of anchoring in reading my version of the morning paper, which is Twitter, it should be nobody's version of the morning paper. But again, I'm not new to this. It's been 13 years that I've been doing that. So, just- um, but yeah, so I don't recommend what I do, but I recommend what Stevie's doing. And I really commend you for creating that neurological pattern because I know it's hard to do because I can't stop. And so it's really incredible that you've been able to do it. And so, it's okay that you kind of got off track a little bit whenever you decide to get back on. Like it's always progress in the direction of a new neurological pattern. And so, I'm just so proud of you. It's really nice to hear you making space for yourself and your own creativity because I've been saying for I don't know, we're going to go on our 6th year next year that I've been saying, hey, the more space you make for your creativity, the more like generative stuff, for you, it's going to you're going to bloom so much as a result of that. And so, um, I wish you all of the opening and expansion, and I can't wait to see what kind of blooms from this journey. So I'm really excited and proud of you as usual.
Thanks, pal.
Yeah.
Yeah, please feel free. Comment.
I will run it up. I will run it up. I got too excited and then I was like, let me chill. And then I didn't think it didn't occur to me to be like, why do I need to chill? I'm just so used to needing to chill.
Yeah, I mean, that's what the video is for,
It's true,
but
it's
the
true.
comment section is open.
It's true, it's true. Okay, okay. You got it. I'm gonna run it up. So today, dear listener, thank you so much for your patience for us forsaking you during eclipse season. We hope the first episode of eclipse season was enough to hold you over. We would love to know how you're doing. We'd love to know what you leaned on to survive this month, because Virgo season was nuts, as expected, as we tried to warn. And here we are on the other side of it. Happy Libra season to all of you, but especially to us Libras. We are the main character this month, and I feel we have had a rough few Libra seasons because the eclipses were in Libra, last year and going forward earlier. The nodes were in Libra. So the last couple years have been a little bit of a rough ride to be a Libra, and this year we get a break on many planes of reality, and I just want us to have that break. And so we will be talking about Evil Eye this episode because it was actually requested by one of our dear listeners. So hi, listener. Thank you so much for bringing this up. And we're gonna go into kind of like what is evil eye? What is our perspective on evil eye? If you deal with evil eye, what can you do about it? All that kind of stuff. And then we will, as usual, get into our tarot horoscope for the month. So, last thing I want to say, because we will see you once Scorpio season starts, and so we will not say this any other time, but happy birthday to me and Stevie. We turned 31 this year. We're very excited. And I am extra excited because my birthday falls on the new moon this year, and it is also Diwali. And I'm spending Diwali in India for the first time in my life, and I'm spending it with my grandparents, and I'm spending it with my extended family. And so I am really looking forward to be the main character because I've never had a birthday with family before in my life, other than my nuclear family, obviously, but I've never spent a birthday with extended family before in my life. And so that's like, I'm about to get so emo. But I'm really looking forward to it. And so, yeah, I'm really just, um, doubling down on my main character moment this month. I'm really taking it. So I'm just warning you all. You don't need to do anything with this information, but you just know, just know I'm the main character. It's me, and then also Stevie. Anyway, Evil Eye. So I have a lot of thoughts with Evil Eye. Evil Eye, generally speaking, I think something that's so interesting to me about Evil Eye is that there is a lot of like there's a certain universality to evil eye. I mean, you can find mentions of evil eye anywhere from South Asia, the Swana region. You can find it in the Western Hemisphere. Indigenous communities have their own versions of evil eye. You've got it in parts of Europe and Eastern Europe and the Mediterranean. And evil eye is just something that has kind of a real. I'm sure also in Africa. I should not downplay that. I mean, know less about it, but I'm sure it's there. Um, so it's like there's almost like a global phenomenon of understanding that as human beings, we have the ability to, just as much as we have the ability to build each other up and send each other positive energy, we also have the ability to send negative energy to other people, and that, there is a collective belief that that negative energy that we can send to other people can have negative ramifications in that other person's life, where they can have health issues, they can have car accidents, they can have injuries, they can have missed opportunities, they can have people turning on them, they can have, you name it. There's a lot of, downstream effects that people have experienced with evil eye. And so in the course of what we talk about, and I think our approach to evil eye, I just wanted to open with, we very much understand and acknowledge the real dangers and the real harm of evil eye, and that, it is a universal kind of like phenomenon for a reason. This is an aspect of the human experience. We are interconnected. And just as much as we can send each other positive energy, we can also send each other negative energy. So yeah, I'll start there. Do you have any thoughts, Stevie, on that?
I, I think the only thought that comes to mind right now is that I was just talking about this with someone earlier today about how like their mom just is experiencing so many different, like, I don't know, like they're going to the doctors and the doctor's a specialist. They're like, you seem fine. Maybe you're just anxious. Maybe it's just XYZ. And they're giving them just so much medication and all of that stuff. And I just had to ask, like, would you be open, not for me to like, do anything, but, how do they feel about seeing some sort of like spiritual practitioner? And I like kind of had to go about it in a roundabout way because, I don't know them that well. I can't just like jump in and be like, you should see a witch about something. Uh, but I have come to find through like so many stories and so many different people's experiences that like there's only so much that I don't know can be explained by like quote unquote hard sciences like medicine and things like that. I don't know, sometimes you just got to go to at least check on the spiritual route to see what's going on because you never know. But yeah, that's just kind of where I'm sitting right now.
Yeah. Some points that I also think are important to think about is that, like, if we understand that this is a phenomenon that is like a universal human experience, it's something that we all can kind of understand and relate to, then we also can understand that evil eye is something that can be weaponized as a tool of mass social control to maintain cultural hierarchies. So oftentimes in practice, evil eye is leveraged against people who are stepping outside the bounds of what society considers appropriate, acceptable, normal, okay. And so that's where I think a lot of times some advice people get is don't look too nice. Don't, share positive things that happen to you with others. Don't share your wins with others. Don't share your plans with others. And so, yeah, I think, a large part of that is because people are kind of conditioned to use evil eye as a tool to keep people in check, where they're like, oh, I think you're getting a little too big for your britches, so I'm going to send you some Nazar. Sorry, the door was loud. And anyway, I don't think you guys heard that, but there's a lot of new sounds in this place that I'm not used to yet. Um, so yeah, I feel a little ominous as we're talking about you. I just hear the most ominous door. Anyway, yeah, so the way that I see evil eye, I experienced a lot of evil eye in my childhood, and a lot of people who were very uncomfortable with me being my authentic self, and a lot of people who had all types of responses to that, but a lot of it was Nazar and a lot of it was evil eye. And I would argue, kind of my thesis around the evil eye is that it only affects us if people we depend on for survival let it affect them. And so the most important thing we can do as protection against evil eye, in my opinion, I know Stevie's got some great thoughts to cover as well, is that we have to cultivate a circle of people that only wish well onto us. Because ultimately, it's okay to feel jealous of somebody you care about. That's a very normal human experience. It's not okay to wish that you want that thing to be taken from them. And it takes some intentional time and practice to discern whether somebody only wishes well on you or if they also have a little bit of a complicated feeling toward you. Um, if it's true that sharing, with people who wish ill upon you can sabotage you, then I would argue the reverse is also true. So sharing your goals, your dreams, your passions, your positive events with only people who care about you can act as an energetic amplifier, which only helps things come true for you even more. So In my opinion, I think I might have mentioned this in a past podcast episode, or I might have said it in a reading. I can't remember. But one of the things that I like to do is use a little bit of discernment with my close friend story on Instagram, where I've kind of whittled it down to only people that I've seen over the years wish only positive on me. And so it's a very small group of people, but it is people that I know without a doubt that no matter what I say on there, they will never wish anything negative on me. And I've noticed that I share, things that aren't set in stone, risky things. I used to test it because I'm a Scorpio dominant person and this is the type of thing that I would do. Um, I would share things that I knew if it didn't work out, like if it got sabotaged, it wouldn't upset me. But I would share it in my close stories when I had a lot larger group of people on there. And then I would kind of see if I get, evil eye, and I would kind of see if I can intuit who would send that to me. And of course, obviously, there's no way to like perfectly know, right? Because this is not something that is spoken. This is something that is felt. And also that people can, care about you and send you nazar without meaning to, because a lot of times people don't process their own emotions, so they can leak out of them in ways that are unexpected. And if you're particularly sensitive, especially anybody with 8th house placements, I know you know this feeling. People can send you their nazar without meaning to, and so I kind of intuited it a little bit. And even if I, missed some people and was wrong, ultimately what wound up, happening is that those people drifted out of my life anyway, naturally. Like it wasn't, anything negative happened or anything, but I just kind of got to a place where, I picked up the habit of like, okay, I can feel and I can sense that the only people in here are people who wish me well. And I don't really feel a need to like expand that group of people at all. Like I'm good. I feel really solid in my relationships. So there's a lot of really power and beauty in being able to share your authentic self with people who wish well on you. And so I think if you deal with Nazar, I'm gonna, let CV speak on a little bit of strategies around that, of what to do to protect yourself. But in terms of like not letting Nazar and your experience of Nazar, because trust me, I'm disabled because of Nazar. Like I know what Nazar can do to you. Don't let your experiences of Nazar close you off from the expansive opportunities that like are possible for you when you let other people be an energetic amplifier for you with their goodwill and their good wishes and their love for you. So yeah, that's what I have to say about that.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, I guess I can talk a little bit about Mal de Ojo, Evil Eye in like Mexico, Latin America. A lot of my spiritual knowledge is based in like Mexican traditions, beliefs, customs, that kind of stuff. I don't know too much about stuff from the Philippines. So if you're Filipino, um, either from, Luzon or anything like that, let me know. I'm curious to see what beliefs and things around evil eye exist. Yeah, hit me up. But yeah, I'm thinking about how the evil eye, and if you have the evil eye, um, how it shows up. And it is described a lot through sickness. Um, Oftentimes symptoms that can't be explained by doctors. So if you're feeling really sluggish, or if you're like nauseous, or if you're throwing up, or if you're in pain and you keep going to the doctors and they're like, I don't know, you seem fine to me. All of these things like are coming back clear. So good luck. Maybe you're just anxious, or maybe you need to lose weight because they love throwing that in there. Uh, it could also be a string of bad luck, like getting parking tickets, or I don't know, not getting a job that you wanted or anything like that. It just gets like, I don't know, evil eye can get transferred from one person to another, both voluntarily and involuntarily. Um, I think a lot about like looking at someone for too long with some seething rage behind you, or speaking ill about someone. And I'm thinking about like gossiping about someone a lot. Like, every time you see your friends, you're like talking shit about the same person. You're probably sending evil eye to them. Whether or not you're just saying like, I'm just applying critical analysis. I'm hating with nuance, that kind of stuff. You're probably still sending evil eye. And I'm also wondering why that person's taking up so much space in your head. Um, you also don't know if they have a ward on their name. They could just be getting more and more beautiful every time you talk about them. But anywho, that's not for now. That's for a different time. Um, So imagine like this energy that like you're sending to someone with anger, jealousy, malicious intent. I don't know, like that becomes something, like that already is something. And the fact that there's like a direct recipient of it doesn't help. It doesn't just like go out into the world and like, you know, dissipates. It has somewhere to go. Um, but yeah, I'm thinking so much about evil eye and I don't sometimes I'm like, do I have it? I should probably check in on that. So, which reminds me to tell you, maybe you should check in with yourself about how you're feeling and also how you're thinking about other people and feeling about other people, talking about other people. Um, what does it feel like in your body when you catch yourself giving someone the evil eye? For me, I know that it comes from a place, or it can come from a place of like resentment or anger. Surprise, I'm Scorpio and Libra. Those are just my default settings. So for me, when I feel that, I my face gets really hot, maybe my fists clench, my jaw is like tense, all of those things. And I'm just imagining like me channeling that energy and like looking at someone that's kind of intense. But how does it feel? How do you catch yourself? How do you know when you're giving it to someone else? Even if you're like, oh, I wasn't I would never wish this on someone. Yeah, but perhaps some part of you is, and that's kind of what's getting channeled too. um, but also check in with yourself about how you're feeling. If you're feeling extra sluggish, or you're having more bad luck, or you're just having a lot of things that are happening to you that can't be explained by doctors or your therapist or anything like that. Um, yeah. Also, what do you do? We talked about a little bit about protection against evil eye. And so in Curanderismo in Mexico and other Latin American countries, I am going to say that you definitely got to cleanse yourself and cleanse yourself regularly and your space. Um, you can do that with smoke. Like if you have incense, you can just kind of like smoke cleanse yourself when you get home or when you leave home or around your home, like at the beginning of the day and at the end of the day. I have a little spray bottle that I like to use. I just made this one yesterday. But like every herbal, like, I don't know, essential oil, every plant has intentions and medicine that you can pull from. You can use bay leaf for protection. You can use rosemary for protection. It all just like depends on what you're trying to bring in and what you're doing too. Um, so making a little spritz for yourself or just buying one. Um, there's also, I don't know, Shroot, have you ever seen these red bracelets
Hmm.
that like folks wear? I'll show y'all mine. It's
Did you get
literally,
one from Moonlight and Sage?
yeah. Oh, this one is just from
Okay.
like Botanica. But she does sell them, and we'll link Moonlight and Sage.
Yeah.
The mine is hanging on by a thread. Like
Tis the
literally,
season.
I've had this for maybe a year or something. Red string, red yarn, red bracelets around your wrists, or you want to put them on your anklets too. Like those can be supportive in protecting yourself and like warding off the evil eye. I have new ones in this little baggie that I'm going to wear once this falls off. Um, you can also take a bath, like a baño, where you can boil different herbs, different flowers, again, setting the intention of like cleansing yourself off, protecting yourself, sealing yourself back up. You can do it like adding it to your bath water. Bless you, Shrew. You can just make a cup of tea and honestly just take a regular shower and then like seal yourself off by like pouring the tea on you. There's so many different ways. I don't know. I can't like really tell you how to do an egg limpia because I've never done that for myself or for another person, but that's popular. Take a look at TikTok. It's everywhere. Um, but yeah, I'm gonna stop because I could just list things off, but I also don't want to overwhelm everyone with so much information. Okay, bye.
Okay, bye. Yeah, oh my gosh, so much thought-provoking stuff you said. I think it's been so long since I've really like thought about Nazar because I think I just confronted it so much in my teens. It was like a constant process and problem for me. That my kind of approach to dealing with Nazar was that I'm fixed dominant, to be fair. I've got like a Leo Mars and everything. So my response was, I'm just going to be so resolute that this cannot bother me. This cannot bring me down. I never entertained the thought that it could. Like it was never even a possibility that occurred to me. Even though I'm literally disabled because of another, like let's not get it twisted. Even though I'm disabled, you could argue that yeah, it's from Nazar, but in my mind, I think that the life that I've built for myself is so beautiful and so authentic to me that even if you're gonna like disable me with Nazar, you're not gonna hold me back. Like I'm still gonna be like living and thriving even after everything I've suffered. Like it's not that's kind of like one approach to Nazar. I think that's how I've kind of handled Nazar. And then I loved what you said about thinking about how you like give others Nazar and give others evil eye. I think I had never consciously thought about that, but of course, all of us are capable of it. I definitely have caught myself, giving Nazar to others. I think it's like a burning in my chest, I think is how I feel it. I just feel like such a dark burning. And I think what I've kind of learned to like, because the way that I see evil eye is that it's a force for transmutation because it's a source of energy. It's an energy source. So what do we want to do with that energy source? So for me, it's rocket fuel for myself when I receive Nazar. But if I find myself giving others Nazar, I think without consciously thinking about it, the process that I've come up with is that I view when I feel myself giving others Nazar, that burning in my chest, I understand that that is an unmet need. And so I try to think, okay, what is the need within myself that I need to like meet and that I need to like cultivate? And I also don't see that as like a one-time thing. So if I'm to the point where I am giving somebody else Nazar, this is an unmet need that is like it's a structural failure in my life. It's a systemic failure in my life that like I need to like meet that need for myself, not just on a one-time level, but on like I need to build a life that meets that need. And so I think I dealt with it a lot as a kid and as a teenager because I think I struggled so much with, I was so jealous of people who had autonomy, like children specifically, because, people who are socialized as brown girls don't get that. And I think that was the hardest thing. I'm an Aquarius rising. It was the hardest thing for me I was never okay with it. And to this day, I'm not okay with it. Like autonomy is so important to me. And so, I was always really jealous of people that had it. And I could feel I just that burning rage within myself of like, "Oh, I'm so jealous that that person has autonomy. Must be nice. And my response to that is that when I had more agency in my life, when I, became an adult, it was something that I understood that it was important for me to build my life around autonomy. And even as a disabled person, and even as a person who for a large chunk of my life, has had and has had to rely on others for any aspect of living as a human being. Um, Learning to cultivate a life that is autonomous even within those confines and those limitations has been so rewarding for me. And I really feel comfortable and confident saying that like I don't necessarily think I've felt Nazar towards somebody else in a long time because I am so fulfilled in my life. Obviously, I don't have, all perfect days and obviously there are days I'm upset at others or even jealous of others, but when I catch that burning in my chest, that's when I know, okay, it's an unmet need and it's not just a passing emotion. I have to take this very seriously and structurally build my life to meet that need. So I would encourage that's a great point of reflection of like, what is the unmet need behind the Nazar you find yourself giving others? And then lastly, a point that I like to drive home is that we can also project our own perception of another person's reaction toward us. And when we are projecting how we think somebody else is reacting toward us, we're just giving ourselves Nazar. That's a hot take. And I think that a lot of people who experience Nazar, not all people, eighth house placements, I'm not talking to you, but generally speaking, a lot of people who experience Nazar, a great place to check is it coming from you? Are you giving yourself Nazar? And are you using other people as a vehicle through which you can give yourself Nazar? And so that I think is one of the most important things that you should check in with yourself about. And that's like my final point on Nazar because I think it's like the Scooby-Doo meme where they take off the mask of the villain and it's you. Like, So, it's like when we are down on ourselves, when we are constantly berating ourselves, when we are constantly using other people as a benchmark for success and then lusting for that, wanting that, being jealous of that, that is giving ourselves Nazar. Like that is, sending ourselves evil eye and refracting evil eye through the lens of our own psychological paradigms and labyrinths. Like that's real messy. And how much energy, how much creative capacity in your life do you free up when you are no longer treating yourself like crap? So that would be my last note on Nazar is that, in addition to all this protective work, in addition to all the ways that you can check in yourself, you can build a life that's supportive to your needs, like that you can surround yourself with people who care about you, protect you, and show that with their actions. You feel that from them in the energy that they send you. All those things, like um, if you're doing all that stuff and you're sending yourself Nazar, like you're literally undoing all of your work. And so that I think is a really important practice of like, how can you reroute that negative self-talk? How can you reroute that negativity that you find yourself kind of circling in your mind? How can you reroute that into something more positive? And so I really encourage you to find a way to um, prioritize meeting those needs that are clearly coming up. And prioritize meeting those needs in a way that isn't about your accomplishments or your achievements or any kind of like external gratification, but rather that like you are living a life that like the things that you get to do in a day like make you feel good. Even if it's like there's so much of your day that you can't control, but it's like the cup of tea that you get to make every evening, like that's in your control. Like, and that's the thing that you put all of your love and your attention and your intention and your care toward. Like that counts. You know what I mean? So I definitely am not uh you know being ignorant of the reality that we all live in, that so many people don't have control over their day and time and what they do. And, so many people are trapped in the stressful situations that we're in. So I'm not minimizing that. But what I am trying to say is that um, sending yourself positive intention and cultivating that habit like goes a long way, especially in the face of all the negativity you might be experiencing. And if you can detach from the expectations that you feel like you're not meeting for yourself and instead focus on the needs of yourself that you can meet, it will go a long way. So.
Wow, we could go on and on. If you feel like you've experienced receiving evil eye, giving evil eye, we want to hear about it. Let us know and let us know how you dealt with it or how you haven't dealt with it. Yeah, I'm just curious.
Yeah, feel free to send us a voice note on Instagram of that if you would like. You could just record us a voice note of your experience and just keep it under 3 minutes, and we would love to share. Also, if you have questions, specifics about how to deal with Nazar, you can ask the podcast. We would be happy to answer that. Feel free to, include your birth date, your birth time, your birth city and state or country location and your question about, this is my experience with Nazar and what should I do? And we're super happy to customize a little thing for you on the pod, and maybe that would help others. So yeah, feel free to share your experiences or ask us a question of how to deal with your own personal experience. Because I think the concept of eighth housers specifically, I know I kept mentioning that as a caveat because eighth housers, you know, people come straight for you personally, and that is a thing that you have to learn to live with, and you have to learn to protect yourself. And so, yeah, we would be happy to go into that further, but just to leave it here where we're at here, feel free to ask us anything or share with us, and we will pick it back up. So
No, I'm like, do I have any eighth house placements?
it's a great question. Let's look up right now. I don't remember. I read so many charts today. Let's see. This is the end of my day. It's like almost midnight. Actually, it's 12:30. It's not even almost midnight. Okay, the one eighth house placement you have is Vesta, which is the asteroid that has to do with what lights our fire, what makes us come alive, what energizes us, but like energizes us in like a warming way. It's like what brings that warmth and fire within us, or what like extinguishes it. And so it is not a lot of placements. You only have the one, and you do have it in Cancer. So it's kind of like when people are emotionally manipulative toward you, exploitive toward you, that in and of itself is a form of Nazar, and that is especially like you are vulnerable to like emotional weaponization, and that is super draining for you, and like So yeah, so like you do have to fortify yourself emotionally in the sense that you need to be noticing when other people's emotions reaching you energetically is starting to dull your fire. And then you need to like clock that and like put the boundaries up. And you know, if you have to take a step back, you have to, even if that person is suffering or not doing well, it's like you have to keep your fire going so that you can keep going, you know, in general. So yeah, that's yours.
I have to laugh.
Yeah, I know. So yeah, eighth house is where we would find Nazar in the chart. I probably should have led with that one. I keep mentioning eighth housers, but yeah. So eighth house has to do with our energetic exchanges with other people, and Nazar is a form of energetic exchange, and so that's where your eighth house would kind of give you information on if you are particularly susceptible to Nazar. So if you find yourself kind of dealing with evil eye so much, then your eighth house would be where to look. And of course, you could book a reading. I'm super happy to talk about it specific to you, but or you could write it into the podcast and we'll share with the class. So yeah.
Wow, that's good to know. And I feel like this is very, I don't know, apt for the tarot. I don't know what the astrology is yet, but oi,
You ready to get into it?
I'm ready. Okay. All right, everyone. As usual, I picked the Marigold Tarot deck. I pulled three cards for you, and the first one is Three of Cups reversed. Reverse, 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 reverse.
I think that every time I get a reverse card in tarot, we are cha-cha slide pilled.
Yes, we we are. Oh my gosh. I cannot listen to that song without thinking of a middle school dance.
Yep. Yep. It's
Love
gym
it.
class for me. Middle school gym class.
Hmm. Incredible. Okay. So the Three of Cups reversed. Upright, this card is a really like feel good card. It's a card that signifies like feeling connected with other people, dancing, playfulness, like creativity, celebrating. I love the way this card feels. Sometimes, and I'll just put a little note, sometimes it does mean there's a third party in a relationship that like someone might not know about, but I'm not going, that's not the route I'm going here. Um, in the reverse, it makes me wonder about how you're engaging with other people. Shroot and I already started talking about the evil eye, who has access to you, who you're letting have access to you, like unknowingly, X, Y, and Z. Um, this card can also signify some like overindulgence, and maybe relying on a lot of efforts to distract yourself by chasing a little dopamine rush. There's a lot there. Um, but maybe you've spent a lot of time with other people. We are just getting out of summer. I feel like this is the time where we're like, we're going to be outside. We're going to push ourselves past our limits because the sun's out. And I'm going to drink a lot and I'm going to do a lot of drugs and I'm going to, like it's just, it's a time. But it's a good time, hopefully. Um, but yeah, sometimes it also means you're just around other people, not even just like your inner circle. If you're outside, you're outside. You have no idea who else, I guess, like you're picking up and absorbing, if that makes sense. And maybe that also means that there's just less time for you to rest and recuperate. And yeah, I'm just thinking, I'm just getting this like feeling of being so open and so outside that it feels really hard to like reel back from. It's almost like, okay, we've been partying since like 4 in the morning. I have an 8 a.m. I need to get home, rest a little bit before I have like a full day of work or something like that. It just feels like it's starting to get to a point where someone's feeling depleted or someone's feeling like they're really tapping out of their time, energy, and resources, whether it's because they're partying or they are trying to make themselves feel good or they're giving a lot of themselves to another person or other people. And maybe it feels difficult to say no especially if someone's like asking for help or if someone wants to hang out, because you don't want to deal with FOMO. Like, no one wants to miss out, but sometimes you have to. Sometimes that's just like a sacrifice or a risk you'll have to take. This card, I think, is letting you know that you need some time by yourself right now. You have to rest and recharge. I know I say this all the time, and it's always true. You have to come back to yourself. I'm, I don't know, I see like a really weird image of this, like a person and all of their limbs and all of their parts are just like, imagine like a cartoon, not like a real person, so that this is like less graphic. But it's like all these different parts of you are just scattered across space and time. Like maybe your head is like on your desk and like your legs are somewhere else. Yeah, this feels really weird, but sorry, this is just what I'm getting. um and it's hard to feel grounded, it's hard to feel centered or even whole at a time like this when you're all over the place. I'm not suggesting that you like completely cut people off or that you start like fully isolating, but maybe you can start off by just spending one day at home and prioritizing rest, not like spending one day at home and then spending that entire day cleaning. Um, yeah, I don't know. There's also a suggestion to reflect on your relationships and thinking about like how much time that's taking up, how much of your resources these things are taking up. How are you feeling in your relationships? Do you feel like, I don't know, Shrew, do you ever have, or have you ever had those friendships where like you hang out and then you leave them and you're like, I don't know how I feel about that. This feels kind of weird. I kind of feel like they hate me. Maybe I hate them. I don't
You
know.
feel like the words that are coming up for me are a little extreme, but dirty and disgruntled. Like
Yeah.
it's such a like discomfort and like an agitation of like something's wrong and I feel gross. And it's not necessarily the person's fault, but that's how I feel. Like something's awry. I totally. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for that. Us and our imagery are all these adjectives. Yeah, do you feel like your relationships are nourishing to you? Or does it feel like you're not really aligned anymore? Or do you feel trapped? Like, dang, I really wish that I didn't have to be friends with this person anymore, but it doesn't feel like a choice because X, Y, and Z. I don't know. Something to think about. But that is what I have to say for the Three of Cups reversed.
Oof, yeah, there's a lot there. That's like dense. I feel like rarely do I have to be like, well, here's three transits that explain one card. But yeah, there's three here. So the first one is it is Libra season, and this Libra season, up until October 13th, Libra season is ruled by Virgo. And then once Venus moves into Libra on October 13th, then this Libra season will be ruled by Libra and all will be well. Relatively. 13th is a little dramatic, but beyond that, well. But until then, Venus and Virgo is like the poster child for discernment. It is so important that we use our discernment right now. And during Virgo season, we talked about discernment on the level of our sensory and, stimulation experiences of like, what do we need to take care of ourselves? What do we need to make sure we feel regulated? That's kind of, to me, the most useful use of discernment during Virgo season this particular year because of eclipse season. But in this Libra season, ruled by a Virgo Venus, it's discernment in your relationships. It's discernment in, what is the weight of these relationships feeling like for you? What is the evidence to back up the kind of feelings that you're getting? And I think that fits into the Nazar conversation really well because it's like, are you self-sabotaging? Are you hanging out with somebody that is depleting you because you are doing that to yourself? Like it is like a form of self-harm. Or are you being manipulated and exploited by somebody? And do you need to like circle the wagons a little bit? Or are you not properly taking care of yourself and your own needs? And you might potentially be doing this to somebody else, right? So it's like, this is a really powerful season to be reflecting on our energetic exchanges with other people, the way our relational dynamics work, and, really kind of racking up a little bit of evidence in the pro and the con columns and looking not just at other people in our lives, but at ourselves and what we're doing. And so that's a really valuable thing to keep in mind for this first half of Libra season. But then it's another layer is the South Node is in Virgo this year. And so while Venus is in Virgo, it's going to pass over the South Node, and we're going to have a Venus South Node conjunction. And that is happening the 4th of October. On the 4th of October, we're having a Venus South Node conjunction. And really, what that means is that so much of our old and predetermined, like familiar patterning around the way that we relate to other people and the way that we show up in our relationships. But also, I think like another really important piece is like the deductive reasoning that underpins our decision making in relationships. So, what is like the scaffolding of your thought processes and your logic? Like what do you feel like you are owed in your relationships, and what do you feel like you owe others? And what is your log? Like, where did you get that opinion from? Like, what was the evidence that led you to that conclusion? What were your life experiences, the life experiences of people around you? How did you draw those conclusions? Like, these are all really important things to be thinking about for the first half of Libra season, because you have a really powerful opportunity to rewrite these patterns and to say, hey, I actually want to, relate a little bit differently. Or maybe, I've grown and this is kind of how I see things now. So you do have an opportunity. You don't have to stay entrenched in any patterns that you identify. You do have an opportunity to choose to do something different. And so I really encourage using the first half of Libra season as a powerful site of reflection. So those are the first two transits that I think are relevant. And then the third one actually is the first one date-wise, but it will have passed by the time you're hearing this, but I think it's so relevant to kind of as like an undercurrent of this Libra season in general, where on September 24th, Mars in Scorpio is going to be square. I say going to be because it's not that time yet for us when we're recording this, but you'll have already heard, it'll have already happened when you hear this. Time is difficult for me. I don't know what time is, but on September 24th, Mars in Scorpio is square Pluto in Aquarius. And that transit, I think, is really an undercurrent. And just Mars in Scorpio in general is a huge undercurrent to this Libra season, where I think it's really important to kind of understand like Mars in Scorpio is all about what are the underlying motives and the underlying buried wounds and the underlying buried truths that are guiding our decisions and are guiding the way that we choose to take action. So all of that, like we kick off this Libra season with that Mars Pluto. Pluto is the other modern ruler of Scorpio. Like if Mars is the traditional ruler of Scorpio, Pluto is the modern ruler. And Pluto being in Aquarius square, Mars and Scorpio, it's like this undercurrent of all the things we don't want to confront, don't want to deal with, both societally and individually, is pushing us to a reconciliation, pushing us to action. So there is going to be like an upwelling of muck that we're like in the middle of right now, as you're listening to this, that really like shapes the first kind of half of Libra season, where it's like, okay, there's all this stuff driving our decision making, and there's all this deductive reasoning underpinning what we feel like we owe others and others owe us. And so those are kind of the two main pieces that I think are really important for us to be thinking about, and specifically applying discernment to, because the thing is, if Virgo's, influencing this Libra season, Scorpio's influencing this Libra season, but Libra's gonna Libra. And what if instead of thinking about all that hard stuff, we just went and did shooters with our friends without thinking too much? Like what if we just went and said yes to everything that comes our way, because that's way easier than having to make a decision and to think about our discernment and to think about our scaffolding and think what we owe others and what others owe us and what is the underlying roots behind all of our decision making. Like all of that can be really hard to think about right now. And so, I think Stevie's saying it's important to take time to rest. I'm going to call you out because I know you won't listen to Stevie. It's Libra season. The pull to be social is so strong. So I really encourage, carve out like one day a week where you're like, okay, in this chunk of time, I promise I'm resting. So it's not a whole day. It's not multiple days. It is just this 2 hour period. I'm going to sit with this book. This 2 hour period, I'm going to take a nap. This 2 hour period, I'm going to, ask my partner to give me a massage. I'm going to put on some nice music and I'm going to not doom scroll for 2 hours. Like just properly pencil in some time in your social calendar. Do something nice for yourself that is disarming to the nervous system, that is not activating or disassociative to the nervous system, and just let yourself recharge a little bit. So I'm calling you out because I know that this advice is hard to take, and I am imploring that you take it anyway. Because uh the underlying stuff like does need to find you somewhere. And if you're going to be, filling your social calendar and filling your days and your schedule with so much stuff, which is, so easy to do during Libra season, then you are going to find yourself reacting as opposed to acting. And like Stevie had said, you are going to let in a lot of people and energy around you that is going to be confusing or draining or um, just not great for you. So the best way to kind of be able to prevent that and to be mindful about it is to carve out some time for yourself, take that time to rest, and think a little bit about discernment. So that's what I'll say about that.
Ooh wee. Okay. When you were like, I know you're not going to listen to Stevie, so I'm going to tell you this. It reminded me of that like TikTok trend where it's just like, my boyfriend has cool rocks that he wants to show you, and you better be nice to him. You better listen.
Yeah, I'm waiting.
That's that's us.
I'll beat you up. Better listen to Stevie. Better take a break.
Thanks, pal. You ready for the next card?
Please.
Okay, the next card is the Emperor. Bum, ba, da, ba. Okay, I thought this was kind of funny because I don't know. I think we're like in talking about discernment and like resting and all of that stuff. I really just think about a disgruntled little kid who just wants to eat a bunch of sugar and play and watch TV and run around with like no bounds. And I think it's funny that the emperor is coming in and being like, there will be bounds, there will be structure, and there will be discipline, but not from like a completely rigid space. But anyway, as you relate or as you evaluate your relationships with others, with yourself, and take time to rest, there is a conversation that's also needed around discipline and structure. I'm having a lot of conversations with folks in their 20s and 30s who really struggle with taking care of themselves. And I'm calling myself out too with like cooking and cleaning and exercising and eating a vegetable, me. Or, like being more mindful with their spending, also me, because they are the ones that are responsible for themselves. And potentially they may be responsible for other people too, whether it's like co-responsibility with like a partner or a spouse, or maybe you also have kids and maybe you have pets too. I don't know. Sometimes as children, we weren't given that structure by our caregivers. And so it feels really difficult to like know what to do or to feel like you can keep up with it because you're like exploring some uncharted territory. And maybe you think like, oh, that person really has it together. And like, that person always eats vegetables. That's me. I'm always like, how do you just cook like a vegetarian meal and you're okay with that? Where's the fried food? But that is me giving into myself. I grew up like next door to a KFC as a young bab. So there is that. I'm also Filipino. We love frying things. We love frying things. It's ancestral. Um, but not super good for my health. Um, we talk in these conversations about like the need to reparent ourselves, to practice being attuned to our needs and tending to them. And that requires some sort of engagement and some sort of clarity and action of taking the time to think like, why am I feeling this way? Oh, I'm hungry. I'm going to acknowledge that I'm hungry and I'm going to feed myself, whether that's buying food or making myself something to eat. Um, and it's just that over and over again, figuring out what you need and then taking care of that. Um, oh God, it's so exhausting. And then you have to clean dishes, and then you don't clean dishes, and then they just pile up. Or maybe that's just me. I know it's not. I know it's not. But the emperor comes to us as this parental figure. It's a provider who supports your structures and your systems. And this card is inviting you to think about what your goals are for structures, because maybe they look different than like other people that you're seeing. They are purely personal, and designed to meet your needs, what Shroot was saying, especially for like the persistently unmet needs. And what are your personal boundaries? Like, what do you need? If that's like, okay, I'm not going to like hold space for somebody past 9 o'clock. That's okay too. If that's having to put your phone on do not disturb at like 8:30, that's okay. But anyway, like what are your personal boundaries? What do you need to contain yourself and to protect yourself? And in what ways do you need consistency and discipline? And this again is a card who's just like, okay, you need some structure. You need some reparenting. This is a space for you to reflect on that and to start building it out. And now I'm really curious as to what Shroot has to say about what this is, because I don't know how to talk about this.
Yeah, this is unfortunately not by choice, but this is my bread and butter because, you know, for the millionth time, becoming disabled at 20 years old, and bedridden at 20 years old, and then also having to shift into a completely anti-inflammatory diet of at 20 years old, no longer eating anything gluten, dairy, soy, anything with additive preservatives, anything like that. Like you name it, I don't eat it. And I'm 10 years in on that journey. And so I've thought about this a lot. But in terms of astrology, I'll kind of weave them both together, my thoughts and the astrology. On the 11th of October, Venus in Virgo is going to be opposite Saturn in Pisces. And I think that this is a conversation that I tend to have a lot with people who have Saturn in Pisces in their natal charts. Because people with Saturn in Pisces, Saturn is the planet that has to do with discipline. It has to do with taking care of ourselves. It has to do with what holds us up. What are the structures in our lives, the rituals, the habits, the routines that keep us together, that hold us together, and keep us strong and strong in the long term of our lives. So there's a reason that Saturn rules teeth, for example, because if you're not flossing your teeth, you're going to lose them, and you're going to get all kinds of problems. And that's not something that shows up in the short term. The thankless, repetitive, chore that is flossing, it's one of those things where it only pays off in the long run of preservation, preserving what you already have. That's so Saturnian. And Saturn in Pisces, Pisces is all about dissolving boundaries. It's all about, dissolving limits. It's all about, not really thinking about time in a declarative deterministic sense. It's about expanding your concept of time to be a little bit more circular, more linear, more fluid, more flexible. Like time is not even real anyway. Why do we have to think about the long term of these things? Like I could just spend the money right now, I can just skip the lunch right now. Who cares if my blood sugar crashes and I might get diabetes? Like that's not a problem for today. That's a problem for later. It might not even ever be a problem. Yeah. I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to call you out specifically. I just know that these are conversations that I have with people in my life that I love. And I wasn't even thinking about you when I said that. I forgot. I'm sorry. Stevie like covering their eyes. I'm like, oh, but like, these are real things that we deal with. And it's really hard to find that discipline, find that structure when Pisces, the inclination of Saturn and Pisces is to dissolve it. So what I would encourage is, and this is what I did when I was 20 years old, because I'm a Libra. You expect me to do anything on myself? Like, I can't figure anything out. I'm a Libra. Like, um, what I did was I, had an accountability buddy. I, reached out to one of my best friends who was also kind of going through similar stuff as me, or, when I was 20 years old, nobody was going through similar stuff as me, but like, it was like, okay, this friend can at least empathize and relate to what I'm experiencing, even if they're not experiencing the exact same thing. But can we, keep each other accountable to each other's goals? So my goal that I needed accountability for was that I needed help making sure that I was eating 3 meals a day. Because for the life of me, I know that a lot of Saturn and Pisces people struggle with this. We can cover a two. We can work our butts off and get a nice two in there, but three is tough. And so I was really struggling with that. And so I would set alarms and it was really just so difficult. And so what I said was, okay, the most important thing I can do is accept that I'm struggling to do this alone. And the most important thing I can remember is that I don't have to hold the weight of this structure and this discipline on my own. If this is something I'm struggling with, this is something I can get help and support with. And so I had a friend, when I was struggling to get up and do the executive function of cooking something, I had a friend cheer me on. I would have a friend check in, be like, have you eaten, pal? Like, what are we thinking? They would talk through meal ideas with me. They would really like be there with me and they would meet me at every single point of resistance that I had. And I think one of the beauties of doing something like that and really checking in with an accountability partner in that way is that it forces you to really confront what are the roadblocks to keeping me from doing this thing. And so the things that I learned about myself was that one, if I left it too ambiguous what I was going to eat, I wouldn't eat. And so I needed a fixed, like brainless, like, okay, this type of meal is what I eat at this time, and these are the types of meals I eat otherwise. Like I needed like a fixed schedule almost, like, and that's something that didn't change because if it changed and I like thought about it too hard, I would just shut down. I would go into freeze mode and I wouldn't eat. So I, found foods that made me really happy to eat, that were healthy for me, that made me happy to eat. I was very lucky to be raised in an Indian household, and I love Indian food. And Indian food is very anti-inflammatory, at least the ones that I eat. And so it wasn't too hard for me to find foods that I had grown up eating that I could just modify a little bit. And to this day, that's like basically what I eat. But it could be something as like chicken and steamed vegetables and some, carbs of some kind, it could be a sandwich, like but just like, foods that you find, in Stevie's case with the fried food, all that was going through my head was you need an air fryer, you need an air fryer, you need an air fryer, because you could do a lot with an air fryer. And you can take the things that are comfort foods to you. So let's say wings, right? You can air fry some wings and they're not going to be deep fried, so it's obviously like there's a component missing there, but like you can, if it's the texture of a crunch of a fried chicken wing, you can recreate that texture and crunch in an air fryer. And so that's where it's like kind of like breaking it apart of like what are the things that are like keeping me from building these habits that I want, what are the things that are keeping me from finding these structures. And doing that by yourself is impossible. I personally, when it comes to like the taking care of myself stuff, I cannot do that alone. I literally I can, once the structure is built, I can facilitate it alone, but building it took team effort. And so I really encourage, I think the most important thing you could do, if this is something that you struggle with and you're resonating with everything we're saying, then I really encourage you to talk to other people in your life about this. And I guarantee you that there's going to be at least one person in your life who is also struggling with something, and it could be completely different than the thing you're struggling with, but you can say, hey, I can cheer you on as you try to navigate that. I can be here for you as you break down and you complain to me about the roadblocks and we try to figure out solutions together. I can be that for you and you can be that for me. Because I think if Libra season is good for anything, it's reminding us that we can learn so much about ourselves and what we truly want and need in relationship and in communication and in community with other people. And so I think that when we run into these difficulties and the impulse is to just say, F it, I'm just going to do whatever, I'm going to dissociate, I'm going to binge eat, I'm going to whatever. Like I'm using food as an example because if it's not clear, I have an eating disorder. And that's been like a whole journey. Like it's like so food is always top of mind for me personally, but I know it could be so many things. So yeah, like whatever it is for you, like instead of kind of leaning to your escapist coping mechanism, there's a lot of power in instead of that, texting somebody and just feeling, hey, I'm struggling with this. Do you mind if we talk about it for a little bit? Um, there's a lot of power in that. It goes a long way. And also looking at this as a long-term project, not something that you have to have all the solutions for now. It's just figuring out what is the most available, accessible first step you can take together with somebody. So that's what I say about that.
It takes work.
And a
It
village.
takes- and a village. Yes, for sure. You ready for the next one, pal?
Please.
Oh,
Last
oh.
card, right?
Huh?
Last card?
Yeah, this is our last card, and it is the Magician. Hooray! Ta-da! Okay, I think we talked a lot about identifying where we're at, what we need, especially for structure, especially for support and those kinds of things, which are so important. There's a lot of thinking that we have talked about today. And with the magician, we're inviting you to build off of these questions and get clear on your why. Like, why do you have these goals for yourself? Why is this important to you? If you're disappointed with yourself or like not meeting these expectations, like why? Like, why is that disappointing? Like, what is driving you? Okay. I guess that I haven't asked you that before, but like, why? Why is this important? Why are you doing it? Why is this like, I don't know, something that's on your mind so much? The magician asks us what we'll do when we have these things. Again, like, we're like, I'm just thinking, I need this, 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 and this. Okay, so what happens when you have that? What happens when you realize you already have a lot of that? This card is urging us to take action. And I don't know, when I pulled this card, it said bring the heat. I don't know. I don't know. We've spent enough time thinking and planning, and now it's time to get our hands dirty and try and reassess and try again and reassess again over and over and over again because we're just on this spinning rock in the middle of space, and these are our responsibilities that we have to do for some reason. The magician comes after the fool. And remember, I don't know, there was a sequence of episodes where like that was the first card every time. So the fool is this energy is like, that's like dare to dream, fuck it, we ball. Like it's, I'm going to do it anyway. Like I'm going to take a risk. I'm going to take a chance. I don't care. I'll figure it out. So this thing is like, okay, already coming in with that kind of energy of like, I'm just going to do it. And the magician is like, okay, do it. Just like keep doing it. It's going, I think, further than that leap of faith and creating something more structured, sustainable, like consistent. You got to keep trying. And I think as we're talking about instant gratification and ways to find dopamine or ways to distract ourselves, we're always looking for something that is going to make us feel better instantly. And that's not always available and not always sustainable or realistic. We are responsible for creating these structures for ourselves, asking for support and helping us meet these needs, attuning to ourselves. The magician is saying, you have what you need right now, do something with it, or you can just stay here and continue to be in the yuck and the muck and the miserable and stagnant. And yeah, I don't have much to say about the magician because we just got to do something like now.
That's our DIY king. I love the magician. That I think, again, we were just talking this before the podcast, before we started recording. I was telling Stevie that I have more than one favorite color, and that orange is my third favorite color. And that's very important to me, that even though it's my third favorite, it's still so important. So I hesitate to say that the magician is my favorite tarot card because if I think hard enough, I'll probably be like, no, it's the Empress, or, but. The Magician is easily top three. I love the Magician card because I think it is so empowering because the Magician tells us to look around and see what we can make with what we have. And I'm a DIY. I love her. I love that stuff. And so, yeah, I think there's a lot there in relation to kind of some interesting transits that are happening in October. That's so interesting. There's so much kind of like these cards this season, it's not just like one thing, because a lot of times it's just one thing and I'm like, oh yeah, it's this thing anyway. But this time it's like, no, 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 it's this, like there's like narrative, there's like story arcs happening with these transits. And so the first kind of, I think, really important transit as a part of this is The Stevie says the magician says to be the masked lesbian you wish to see in the world. That's what I'm talking about. Absolutely. Oh my God. I'm gonna be thinking about that for the rest of the night. So on October 13th, which is very shortly after that October 11th transit I talked about, so only 2 days later, Venus is going to move into Libra, from Virgo into Libra. And that's that pivotal switch in the vibe change of Libra season, like I talked about. So immediately upon moving into Libra, it's going to be opposite Neptune in Aries. And Neptune is newly in Aries. It only moved into Aries this year. This is a brand new energy for us. I always say, Neptune rules our dreams, our illusions, our visions, our, imagination, what we can imagine and envision for ourselves and what is experiential for us, that is beyond kind of like the human. Like I always say, like, listening to music is, maybe Venus, or you could, the emotions music makes you feel is maybe the moon. But when you're at a live concert and you're experiencing the transcendence of the collective experience of everybody listening to the music, singing the lyrics back, contributing to the vibe, and the live musicians are just playing that music and the energy, the crest that you go through on that journey of live music, that's Neptune. So hopefully that makes sense in terms of what Neptune is and what it represents. But Neptune is spent the last, like, since 2011 to this year, it has been in Pisces, and it's at home in Pisces. It's the modern ruler of Pisces. So the way I kind of describe it is that from 2011 to now, everybody is getting really hopped up on whatever they believe. Like there's a solidification of the things that they believe, and it is not from a rational lens at all. So to me, it's no accident that I became an astrologer during this transit, because if you had told 2011 me that I would be an astrologer for a living, I would genuinely laugh in your face, like unrestrained. My first gut reaction would be, that's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. Astrology is not real. So, that's kind of the power of Neptune and Pisces, is that it can really take us belief wise into places we would not have ever seen ourselves before. Now, Neptune in Aries, Aries is a sign that rules, is ruled by Mars. It's about aggression. It's about, I say fighting and fighting. So it's time to fight about it. Whatever we believe, it's time to fight about it. That's, there's a reason that the temperature of the world kicked up in intensity when Neptune moved into Aries this year. So Venus enters Libra. It's ruling, Venus rules Libra and immediately opposes Neptune in Aries. Not cute, very confrontational transit. And I think that this transit is really about asking your why, because it's like, if you're going to take action, why? And so I think, Venus rules our values, Venus rules our skills, Venus rules our possessions, Venus rules, I call it the nouns, right? Our people, places, and things, and values and skills, technically. So it's like, if Venus rules all these things, it's like Venus is bringing all of that, perspective to Neptune, and Neptune's like, but why? What is it really about? What are you really about? So that's a really important thing to be confronting, especially as we move into mid-October. And then we kind of slide into Scorpio season. And, with Scorpio season, we're going to have some really important transit, not just even in Scorpio season, but like there's a lot of transits to this Mars in Scorpio. And the sun square Pluto in Aquarius. So it's like there's just like the Scorpio activations are so dramatic, and Scorpio is the also is ruled by Mars. Aries and Scorpio are sister signs in that way, that they're both ruled by Mars. So it's like there is a huge like underpinning, like Scorpio is, if Aries is about like the why on an overt level, like, so what's the obvious answer? Why? Scorpio's like, okay, but what aren't you saying? Like, why? Like, but really though, like what's underneath that? Like, why? And so those are kind of the questions. It's like we're being asked on an overt and a covert, on a conscious and a subconscious level. Why? What are we doing? And why are we doing it? So it's really important to think about that this month. I think there is going to be so many opportunities for escapism. And I think you will find that because of the heavy Aries and Scorpio energy, you will not be able to escape for long. So on October 22nd in Scorpio season, Neptune retrogrades back into Pisces. And so that's where you might find yourself really feeling the pull toward the end of October. You might find yourself feeling the pull of, well, what if I don't think about this? And then Scorpio season's gonna be like, wham, bam, no, thank you, ma'am. And Scorpio's gonna drag you back to, this place of like being honest with yourself and really thinking about these things. And so it really, you save yourself a lot of time this month if you curb the impulse to just not think about things too hard, and be the woke friend. If you've heard that meme, like the whole, oh, not to be the woke friend, but No, be the woke friend this month. Really think about the underlying drivers, the underlying systemic factors, the underlying reasonings behind why you do what you do and what you do. Because there is a lot of room for, um, like Stevie said, putting things into practice. And if you have a clear vision of why you're doing something, it becomes so much easier to actually put things into practice. And I thought that something that Stevie said was so important as we move, especially into Scorpio season, because we're going to have like Mercury and Sagittarius. There's gonna be some Sagittarius activations that start happening. And I think it's really important to kind of understand like um, you never know what the outcome is when you try. And you never know when something is going to, not hit the way you want it to, not settle the way you want it to, not be right the way you want it to until it does. And so the only way it gets to that point of, settling the way you want to, hitting the way you want to, going down the way you want to, is if you try. And so there is so much to gain from trying, where if you really try to put forth concrete actions in favor of the why behind what you're trying to do, it's very likely on October 29th, Mercury is in Sagittarius, it's going to be opposite Uranus and Gemini at 0 degrees of Uranus, of both Sagittarius and Uranus. It's very likely that by the end of the month, something could shift in your favor, or something could shift if you're putting it off and if you're not like facing all this stuff. It's very likely that that October 29th transit will drag you right back into facing it. So, you never know kind of what the gains you may get if you are on top of it this month. So, to kind of like wrap it all up in a nice bow, if you take some time out, especially at the beginning of the month and rest, allow your body to talk to you about what's going on. Take stock, especially of, the relationships that you're in, the people that you're giving your energy to, and vice versa. What do you feel like you owe them? What do they feel like, what do you feel like you're owed by them? What is the deductive reasoning that's the scaffolding underpinning, your deductive reasoning of why you've come to those conclusions about who owes you what and why? And then, think about, okay, how can I lean on the people in my life to build structure and accountability, to build habits that are self-sustaining for me? That's kind of like a mid-October situation. And then like an end of October situation, it's like, how can I try to build the life that drives my why? How can I get real with my why so that I can take steps in action toward it? And I can open myself up to unexpected possibilities by the end of October that I would have never imagined. So that's your horoscope.
Just something light, fun.
For the girls.
Ay, ay, ay. It never ceases to amaze me that we are just going to be confronted with everything that we're avoiding until we do something about it.
Yeah,
Mhm.
and also that like this year was never giving calm. This year was never giving like leaving you to your own devices, letting you sit in the stagnation of where you're at. I said it last year, let go or be dragged. And we're being dragged. We're in the dragging phase. So like it is well past time to have let go. And now you need to like transition from the being dragged into walking of your own volition in the direction that you want to go in under these insane conditions. So, um, unfortunately, that's just kind of the astrology ahead of us. And, I really urge you that as much as a freeze response is completely understandable, or an avoidance response, or like just like a shocked or anger or grief at everything going on and everything changing and shifting right before our eyes, to understand that like this year and next year, 2025 and 2026, are the most malleable, structurally malleable years of our entire lives. Just objectively, astrologically speaking, that's a fact. So, what are you going to do with that malleability in your life? If you have the ability to actually make structural changes in your personal life within the confines of all the things that you can't control, what are you going to do and why? So, the more that you really hop on that now, the farther you're going to get when the structures firm up again by 2027. And then we're going to have to just be problem solving and reckoning with what is, as opposed to what could be. And we're in the what could be phase. And I just think it's really important that you don't let the intensity of what's going on diminish your ability to take action. And so that's why I'm always such a like I always celebrate. It's like any step you take in the direction of your growth, your fulfillment, centering yourself, trusting yourself, caring for yourself, any even small step in that direction, any even mental shift in that direction, I'm like, yeah. I'm like here to cheer you on because it will pay off thousandfold over the course of your life in ways you could not even imagine going forward. And so you need to do that future version of you a favor and be here now and be really intentional about the choices that you're making now and be really intentional about caring for yourself, being in community, allowing others to care for you because the actions that you take now are the ripple effect tremendous. And this is a unique time period. And rarely am I like, oh, you'll run out of time because, God willing, for as long as you're here, you got time. But in terms of the structural malleability of our times, there is a time limit. And the clock is ticking. We're almost done in 2025. We've got one more solid year of 2026 to really shake things up in our lives. So I encourage you to cross the threshold willingly, with intention, with clarity of purpose, and freak it.
Freak it.
Get your freak on.
Get that freakum dress on.
We haven't made 2000 song references in a minute. I thought we had to bring it back.
I know. We had to. Okay, everyone. Good luck.
We're rooting for you. As usual, you can follow us on socials. You can message us, let us know what's going on with you. Feel free to send us a voice note on Instagram. If you want a reading, feel free to book a reading with us. We do offer that joint reading where you can get both tarot and astrology. So it's very similar to our tarot, astrology, horoscopes, but just personal to you, very, very, very personal to you. Very, very guided, very supported, safe spaces. So yeah, that link will, as always, all of the links will be in our show notes. And of course, Stevie and I offer individual readings, tarot and astrology, and I believe Stevie also offers Reiki. So yeah, find the links for all of that in our show notes. And yeah, all right, Stevie, we'll see ya.
See you later, and I'll see you in however many Tuesdays.
Yeah, we have no idea. Oh my God. The 12-hour difference is tough for both of
Mhm,
us. So
mhm.
when I get back, we will definitely resume, although it will be holiday season, so God help us even then. But we will be back when we're back. So stay tuned.
See you around.
Bye.